the actuary, I'm sorry.
Actually, it was pretty quick.
Hey, good evening, everyone. In front of you, you have your list of wire transfers for the month of November. There's really nothing unusual here at all. And then following that is your check register. There is a check that was issued to Grosse Pointe Farms for the last quarter's worth of their court administration over our court. A lot of election invoices were paid, main breaks.
What are we paying to that Ford Croft, 29 Ford Croft, modern maintenance landscaping, $2,200? Why are we landscaping Ford Croft?
We had a large sewer repair there,
Okay,
and the homeowner had just put in a brand-new yard. So
Okay.
we had his original contractor replace it.
okay.
Rhonda, what do we pay the credit union every month for?
It's bi-weekly, and that's payroll deductions from the employees and retirees checks.
Withholding. That's our savings plan.
Yeah, it's their savings, what
To the
they
credit union?
designate.
Yes.
You put $50 a week in the credit.
Oh,
As
whoa,
out of your
whoa,
check.
whoa. I see.
Out of your check. We're not paying them for it.
Gotcha. It doesn't show, it just shows up kind of like we're paying the credit union.
Are there any other questions? We're
No.
looking at that check register here.
Make a motion, we pay the check.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Not all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
And I will be putting together something for next month so that you can review the payroll each month going forward. As far as the balance sheet and the budget revenue, right now, we're still on track. I do not have the auditor's journal entries in this balance sheet yet, so hopefully by next month, we'll get those all put in there so the numbers will be up to date. Tax bills will be starting probably Monday. I have to wait for the assessors to approve everything tomorrow. They had some changes in a software program, so they want to make sure all the numbers are correct again. Water bills will be going out probably the second week of December. And one other item I'd like to bring up is, you might remember, we have our AAA Standard & Poor rating. And of the 1,773 cities, villages, and townships in the state of Michigan, there are 14 that are AAA.
Wow.
And that's applause to everybody,
Yeah.
council,
Wow.
staff, and residents, because it was a group effort to get this. And also, just for your curiosity, 3 counties in the
Yeah,
state of
Free
Michigan.
County.
Not Wayne County, I don't.
You know, Kent, Oakland, and Washington.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Rhonda.
Good job, Rhonda. Good
Happy-
job on everything.
And happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, thank you.
too.
Bruce, committee report?
Finance Committee met last week, talked about the upcoming budget, capital needs and things like that. Our biggest concern going forward is looking at the OPEB report. The target funding number for the state is 40%. We're hoping there'd be some changes with the administration, but the election is, it's clear that there's gonna be no changes to the retiree health care plan, so we're gonna be in a position where we're going to have to look at funding sources for that on a going forward basis. That's gonna be our biggest challenge in terms of revenue for that. Remember, like I keep saying, we are $1.2 million less in revenue than we were 5 years ago. If our tax values had stayed where they were, we'd have $1.2 million more in our revenue side for funding all these items. Our pension plan's at 98%. And you have not, and our residents have not incurred a general tax increase in the last, since I've been on council. We've raised taxes 1 year for specific project-driven items, roads, parks, and items like that. So it's, commend the city staff, commend everyone for keeping costs in line. And we have increased we've increased people's wages and everything else, so it hasn't been that we aren't, being reasonable employers. We've funded capital equipment. I think the department heads would tell you that they've had their needs and wants met the best in a long time in terms of that. And our infrastructure's in the best shape it's been going forward, so. We're gonna talk about another 2 items that the Finance Committee has later on, so I'll reserve my comments there.
Thanks, Bruce. Any questions for Bruce? Not Chief?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll
Evening, Chief.
try and be very brief. I just want to echo the comments of the mayor in regards to Mrs. Dowling. She was a great friend of public safety, and when she stopped by City Hall, she always wanted to say hello. And I saw her recently at a restaurant, a local restaurant, and she walked. I was trying not to disturb her. She walked all the way across the restaurant to say hello to my wife and I. So she was a great friend, and they were very. In 2011, as you remember, she donated a police vehicle to the department, and we're extremely grateful for her. And her funeral was December 8th, Saturday, December 8th. Basically, what I want to talk about briefly is the parks. The last 3 weeks, Tom Krolchek and I met with 2 vendors on items related to park security. The first vendor was Conti Electric. They gave us a proposal for 4 cameras to cover the entire parking lot and the new entrance. Relative to the additional video data that we'll be gathering from this, it's a very cost-effective solution. 1 camera will capture all license plates as they enter the park, and the other 3 cameras will be mounted on the exterior of the structure, the new guard structure, to cover the entire parking lot, all high-definition cameras. The benefit to the city here is that there is no underground boring required. There's no underground cabling required. They're going to wire the signal wirelessly across the street to the municipal complex. All we'll need is an antenna. And again, Conti Electric has been very, very good to us with coming up with cost-effective solutions to what we're doing. And I can't speak highly enough about the service we've received from Conti Electric. They're excellent.
What was the price?
It was $4,800 to cover the
4,800.
entire, and there's no additional money per month to our
Wow.
provider.
Where would those feeds be projected?
They'll be sent to the computer room right outside the squad room in the police
Okay, so
station.
they won't be monitored live.
Unless there's an officer sitting at the desk writing a report, no, but we will archive the data for approximately 45 days.
Now, could we put them in into both the Ranger building and the new guard building? Could we put monitors in there if we wanted?
You could, for an additional expense, you probably need a laptop in there or some type of a monitor. That could be looked at, I'm sure.
Could you do that?
I think we could probably, I can find out for you for sure. Sure. Secondly, we've been working with, and Tom Krolchek and I attended the park meeting last week to talk about card access systems. We reviewed a response from our Interstate Security, a system that currently controls our electronic doors within the court, public safety, and administration. Their solution was to add a proximity chip to the back of the park passes that would be scanned. Unfortunately, that's cost prohibitive because each chip is about between $5 and $6, which would drive the cost up incredibly. What we did come up with was Tom worked with another vendor today where we can add a barcode to the back of the park pass, easily scannable with a handheld wireless scanner. They get a tone on the laptop, or we're not going to do picture IDs, but we're going to have a security system. We'll be able to retrieve all the data that's necessary. So, and this is 1/4 of the cost of the other system. So, I've been working with Joe Cipriano with the Park Committee, and as well as Tom. And Tom is a great resource for the computer issues because he's very knowledgeable about this stuff. So, we're kind of excited. We'll have something more to report as we go forward.
Chief, did you look at possibly putting the barcode app on the phones, on the smartphones for access?
We did. We discussed it at the park meeting. However, we have a lot of seniors that don't have smartphones, and we were hoping to keep away from a hybrid system where we had both hard scan copies. This first step is very cost efficient and will get us kind of to where we want. We can always make a decision down the road if we choose to go that way. We also thought about juveniles too. Not every kid has a smartphone. A lot do, but
Who doesn't? Come on.
yeah.
Get under it.
On November 14th, myself and 2 of my senior command staff interviewed 8 public safety applicants for the 2 open positions that we currently have. As you know, it's very difficult to hire. We have extremely high standards, and we have a lot of certifications that are required: police, fire, and either EMT or paramedic. The two top finishers are both currently sworn police and fire. One is a paramedic and one is a basic EMT, which are the exact skills of the officers that we lost. Both of these officers are retiring from their current departments and are both of the age of 50. This is the new reality that we're facing. Both of these gentlemen, I know one works in a local department. I worked with him for a number of years. Both are in excellent physical shape, and both come highly recommended and loaded with certificates and loaded with training. So we're going to be planning to offer them a conditional offer of employment next week, and we'll proceed with their processing.
Chief, how does the union look at them? I mean, what step do they start? Do they have to start back on the
Well-
first step?
Traditionally, and with Mark's help over the years, if you have certifications coming in, we start you at an accelerated, we don't start you at the baseline, we move you up into a position where you're not top pay, but you're second or third year pay. So it's,
Which is somewhere around $80,000 then, right, roughly, from what I understand?
no, we're looking at probably in the high 50s to start.
And that's without overtime, that's their base pay.
That's the
What
base-
you're
that's their
recalling
base
is
wage.
Including some of the paramedic certification that goes on top of that, as well as,
I'm sorry, I thought you meant the base wage. Yes, there's paramedic pay. If they are a paramedic, they get 10% of their base.
Okay, okay.
But yes, it does equal out too when you consider the benefits. Yes. it's
Now,
right.
do we have to give them health care and retiring?
Well, we are going to offer it to them, whatever system that we've given to our DC candidates, our DC employees.
Defined contribution.
Defined contribution, but I dare say neither one of these employees will take it. They'll probably take the buyout, because they both currently have medical and dental.
Sure, sure.
So,
They'll probably participate in the HSA retirement account.
sir,
Is there a short training period because these guys are already qualified?
well, they're both field training officers, as luck would have it. They actually will, and I've spoken with both of them in regards to, this is a different position for us, and you have to walk back some of your training and years on the job, because you're a rookie here, and you're expected to, and you're in the pecking order, and you're at the bottom of the, but both of them have no issues with that. I sense no issues at all with them thinking that they are more senior. They have a lot of certifications, and they have a lot of training, and they're going to be able to hit the street running, so to speak. So
And do they have that intangible, because we view them as ambassadors?
I would not hire an officer who did not know the meaning of the word service.
Okay,
Period.
okay.
It's just, they don't fit here, and we've had some that have left us. You have to know what service means, or
Right.
you're not going to
Okay.
be happy here. Finally, Friday, the Thanksgiving parade, I'll be driving our engine, representing Grosse Pointe Shores in the Grosse Pointe Thanksgiving Day Parade. And on Sunday, I will be bringing Santa to City Hall, hopefully exactly when the mayor says I'm coming. So that's all I have. I hope it was brief, but I'll take any questions. if you
Thanks,
have.
Chief. Any questions of the chief?
So what group do you have to show up under you have to be at the church at what? You're gonna be there at 9:30
What's that?
for the parade,
The church?
where everybody
On
congregates.
we stage on Lewiston, yeah.
Yeah.
About 9.
You're gonna be there at 9?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bunch of dogs walking.
Just one additional thing, I did attend the services for Axe, the St. Clair Shores canine that was slain in line of duty, and I coordinated the outside security at the Assumption Greek Church, and it was a really nice tribute to an excellent canine unit, and there was no issues. They had some threats. They thought there was going to be some problems, but he came off with no issues.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Thank you. Brett? You're nice, bright awake here, and
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I will be brief in my report this evening. Starting off, DTE's is pretty much finished up with the restoration here in Grosse Pointe Shores. The Grosse Pointe Yacht Club still has to get its gas service updated. Right now, it's scheduled for December 1st, and I'm sure we're going to have some minor issues as far as restorations and other issues that we may have to take care of in the spring. But for the most part, the work from DTE has been completed. I'm sure you got my email regarding Colonial Road that will be paved in the spring. And if anyone out there has any questions or anything that needs to be addressed that we're overlooking, have them feel free to call me in the DPW office, and we'll relay those messages right to DTE. Our leaf pickup program is well underway. Very cold temperatures we've had this season has made this job quite challenging. As a result of the cold temperatures, our leaf vacuum freezes up overnight. So the first thing we have to do in the morning is get it thawed out, and once we have it back on the road, we're finding the leaves are frozen to the street. So we're moving slow, but we're also moving forward, and we're getting things done.
Are you gonna extend it?
We have some warm weather coming up, and we plan on going through the city the first week of December, yes.
You think you'll be done then?
I think we can pretty much finish it up, yeah. We've been on top of it, and we've had, all hands have been on deck. I mean, it's just been a challenge this year. So, with the rain and the snow that we've had, also, the loads that we're carrying up to Indian Summer have been quite heavy. So we might have a little bit higher tip fees than normal. And, again, your DPW staff is gonna pick up leaves through the first week of December, and after that, we would ask all of our residents to, bag their leaves in the, brown paper recycle bags, and we will pick them up at the curb on the regular scheduled pickup day. The harbor across the street's now closed, and, we're working on, winterizing it. Again, with these cold temperatures, we decided to winterize the water system there a few weeks earlier this year. Those of you remember last year, we had a cold snap and we had quite a bit of freezing and a lot of repairs to do this spring, so we took it upon ourselves and winterized early. Didn't get any complaints, so maybe that's something we can think about doing in the future to keep our repair costs to a minimum. Also, your DPW staff has been quite busy getting our village ready for the Christmas holiday season. Currently, everything is on schedule, and we look forward to the tree lighting ceremony on Sunday the 25th. And as always, if you see any potholes or anything that needs some attention here in Grosse Pointe Shores, feel free to call the DPW office. If you have any questions, I can try to answer them at this time.
Any questions? If not, thanks, Brett.
Very good, thank you.
Okay. Park Committee?
We had a meeting last week, and we talked about several things, and the chief spoke to a couple of them that we fully support. You know, the idea of these security cameras and the issuance of these ID cards. We're all in to that financially, whatever it takes to fund that. But we also discussed gate arms. You know, we were under the impression that there's gonna be an arm on this new access road that's gonna, like, stop cars and let pedestrians cross. But I heard some otherwise also. We think that's a must.
Yeah, I can answer that. The plan is, initially, we have to feel our way in terms of some other security things. There were talk about 3 of them at different locations.
Right, yeah.
We're not gonna put one at the entrance in the lot to begin with, where you would pull in off of Lakeshore. We're probably gonna put a chain across with a thing, with a sign that when it's closed, like a A-frame, thing to see. We are gonna put one that will be controlled in the gatehouse, so that, and that's where the gatehouse is, that's why it's placed where it is. There's enough area between it and the sidewalk where kids would come in and walk, or people that park over here and walk to the other. So there will be a gate arm there, and that's already been figured in. I don't think we've purchased the actual gate arm yet, but that's been figured in the electronics or electricity.
Okay.
And where it has to go to put in there.
Okay.
That's pretty much what we're gonna do to begin with, and then see as others. We're not gonna put one
Yeah,
initially,
you know, part of the
when you
discussion
come
too.
out, that we'd have to have another button to press, whereas that's currently the entrance gate,
Mm-hmm.
and we weren't certainly gonna put one way down at the end.
Well, until that all gets figured out, you know.
Yep.
But there was talk about, maybe we need 2 more out there, but, you
Yeah,
know,
we're gonna
right
look
now,
at
we
that
get
and
that
see.
one and pay for that one, and get that up to snuff. We also talked about, the park and the harbor committee being separated. And we think it's just, they're both, I mean, they're right there, they're together. And we felt, at least as a park committee, that they should be combined back into one committee, park and harbor committee. You could bring on, the harbor committee folks to the park committee, still have John as, a co-chair to run the harbor, and Joe as a co-chair to run the park. And, I don't, we've been working separate, but they're the same entity, and I think they should be combined back up like they used to be. So
Okay.
I leave that, I don't know whose decision that is to make that, but
Okay.
we need to look at that. 'Cause
Okay.
At least the park committee supports it. John, I don't know if you want to chime in on that? Not yet. Say again? Okay, good, please, do that. Otherwise, that's all I got. Joe, or Tom, am I missing something?
Yeah, I think the only other question we had was, why there was never any sleeves put in or any information to put some plumbing in the apartments.
Well, I can be happy to answer that, because it was added another $50,000 in potential cost. And internally, staff had this discussion.
We understood that, but why could, is there other things you can look at, like, they have self-contained systems or?
Yeah, it's not, we don't think it's necessary at this point. It shouldn't be a problem in the future. There is a drain nearby that's both a storm and there's a sanitary nearby too. We would have to go through to do that. But was not, for cost purposes, not included in the design.
Okay. Any other questions? I'd like to add, at the Boo Fest, a couple families came up to me. They would like the park to consider selling at the concession stand pizza, pre-cooked pizza, maybe from one of the local places with like a little warming. They don't want their young children to take a hot dog. They don't want the choking hazard. They said to do something about that. Pizza would be great for young children. And then they were asking for smaller picnic tables, much smaller for toddlers, because now they go and sit on the picnic table and they fall through the crack or fall in the middle, and potentially can hurt themselves. They were suggesting vinyl covered, or some kind of like fiberglass picnic tables for young kids. And third was, and actually, I probably from the Improvement Foundation, so I shouldn't say anything, but it was they want a toddler park, some of the young families. So we're getting some younger families moving in. They want pizza, whether we can do it with a warming oven. I don't know if our food handling permit permits that. Yeah,
It would. I talked to, based on our meeting yesterday, I don't want to steal your thunder.
Yeah.
I talked to Sue Banner. They're exploring it. If we need a warming item, I suggested similar to like Bomberitos or some of the
Okay.
other things like that. And we'll talk to our friends at National Coney Island to see how we can work through them to maybe acquire what we might need for that. So, and Sue's gonna check it out
that'd
as
be great.
well.
That'd be great.
Whether it's Costco or Sam's Club that they buy this stuff from.
Okay,
Have it warming, but it's a good suggestion.
that'd be great. Okay, well, good. Thanks, Doug. John, Harbor Committee? Thanks for being patient tonight.
Mayor and Council, good evening. Well renewal notifications are being delivered this month. Well deposits are due December 17th, 2018 at 50% of the fee, and the balance of that fee is due February 15th, 2019. I've been communicating with Tom Krolchek, and so far, Tom has begun to call the non-compliance well runners yesterday, as a matter of fact, so I'm waiting on feedback on that, of what might transpire. It should be smoothly, I hope. Tom also said the harbor conditions a wall quote came in yesterday, and he's in communication with the company that is installing the wall. I don't have any specifics on the numbers or privy to that information. Harbor pilings, I asked him what the status is on that, and we'll know by the spring how many have popped and or broken. And also, we're going to try to include new pilings on wells 128 through 133 to increase the length, so vessels will be in compliance, and also we can charge that more.
Okay, great.
Good job, bless
God
you.
bless you.
Let's see what else. And Tom also stated that he is also working on the scan system, as you guys already talked about with the park passes. And thank you, and happy Thanksgiving.
Good.
You as well.
All right, thank you, John. Any questions?
Mark.
Mark?
One thing you didn't mention, your good suggestion, we have obtained the boards. And one of
Oh,
them is
God bless you.
upstairs, actually both of them are upstairs. So the boards that outline the park and all of the locations that we can fill in on erase boards are actually here. And it was a good suggestion.
Yeah.
Took us forever to get it, but.
They're simple but effective.
Yeah, it's gonna be fine.
Yeah, it was only like $200. They're 6 feet by 4 feet, and every well's there, and there's gonna be magnets that
Yep.
you can just identify. And then people will be a directory of which boats, and maybe we can further differentiate between resident and non-resident
Oh,
in
for
terms of
sure.
priority.
Absolutely.
Okay, that was your idea. Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Okay,
Thank you.
infrastructure, Bob. You got a little bit of that today, I
I
think.
covered number 2. Most people don't know, Brett and I take rides periodically. We had a nice little ride last week. And we went up to Indian Summer, a recycling place. That's where all our leaf and brush go up there, and it gets processed, made into mulch and stuff like that. And they resell it, so it's recycled completely. Well, on the way there, we were met by a very enthusiastic county weight master, so. After he got done, he said, told Brett, well, we're kind of overweight, and he gave Mr. Brett a little piece of paper that he had to turn in, so. So it was kind of interesting. We really don't realize it, that we had a lot of rain, and the truck was full of leaves, so it retained a lot of water, so you can understand where the overweight. On our way back from up there, he did let us go back and dump it. On our way back, there was one of the other Grosse Pointe communities was being inspected too by a weight master, another one. And another one over there by a county mountie was in there, state trooper was in there weighing somebody, so. They kind of know when things are wet, when they can grab a few extra dollars. So it was interesting. And I accomplished what I wanted to go up and see what Indian Summer was really like, you know, inside. I don't want to work there, but it's, and he is a Shores resident, the guy that owns the place, so. Other than that, I covered the other part earlier with the outages, and I do have a copy of the proposal of the.
Yeah, Bob, if you could
Website.
work with him on that, because he was really, upset Friday when he came to see me, so thanks for doing that.
Yep.
And
But
Bruce
some
can-
signatures from him would really work. I'd have to get his address or something.
Well, they have a petition signed by the people, Bruce prepares the letter, and then you submit it on the form, so it goes in front of the proper authority.
And,
Maybe the squeaky wheel gets attention.
well, it does.
Okay, great. Thanks, Bob. Improvement Foundation. Brett, this is your 6th time coming to the podium, isn't it? You got some exercise today.
Good evening again, council. Brief update on last month's foundation meeting. A couple of topics that we talked about were the shade for the tennis court. That went over very well. We're going to vote on that in January. The second topic was the shade for the front door. That did not go so hot, but we're going to vote on that again in January, so I'll have more information to you the next meeting. Boo Fest was a success, as you mentioned, Mr. Mayor. We served plenty of hot chocolate and a lot of donut holes. I had a few myself. Other than that, the tree lighting ceremony this Sunday will be serving hot chocolate again. And the holiday home tour is December the 2nd, and hopefully we get a few people to take advantage of that also. So then, unless there's any questions about the foundation, I have nothing more to talk about.
Thanks, Brett. Matt, do you have anything to add?
Just good job, Brett. Thank you.
Good. Legal report. You haven't heard from, yeah, we'd like, briefly.
Yes. Since the day of the last city council meeting held on October 16th of this year, the city attorney's been engaged in the following activities on behalf of the city. Under general municipal matters, we reviewed and consulted with the city on its response to a city resident letter alleging harassment by neighbors and others within the city, and that letter was sent off to the resident, and I don't think there's anything more that's come of it since then.
Not so far.
Yeah, right. We drafted a proposed amendment to the Village of Grosse Pointe Shores ordinance regarding the International Fire Code implementation. We mentioned this at last month's meeting. We'll have it ready. It is ready for consideration by the council at the next meeting in December. We also conducted a review of a Macomb County Interceptor Drainage District contract that was forwarded to us by the city. We prepared markups and comments on it for review by the city manager and by Brett Smith, and we forwarded that to Brett and city manager a week or so ago. We conducted a review of the recreational marijuana ballot proposal, and we've also, and that ballot proposal passed, as probably everybody knows. And we drafted accordingly a proposed ordinance for city review. That's been moved on to the city in draft form. Maybe more to talk about next month. We also conferred with the city regarding a PEG fee accounting issue with the Grosse Pointe War Memorial. We reviewed the PEG fee memorandum of understanding that was entered into between the city and the other Grosse Pointes and the War Memorial, and that was last in 2009, I believe. And we prepared a memorandum to the city regarding the city's rights, as well as the other member cities, to information under that agreement. We reviewed and responded to a FOIA request served by a resident on the city for records relating to the Deep Lands Development Project. We received and forwarded to Public Safety correspondence from the Michigan Pawnbrokers Association regarding recent revisions to the Michigan Stolen Property Statute. And apparently there's a period of time after which the pawnbrokers, if they've got a loan out on stolen property, get replevin rights or rights to recover the property from the city after a period of time. We conferred with the city regarding water billing issues. We prepared an audit letter response to the city's auditors who presented tonight. And we also reviewed a solid waste disposal issue involving the city and the Indian Summer Recycling Facility, and we corresponded with the 72nd District Court regarding fines due under the weight ticket that Bob Brett mentioned. We were able, they do have discretion to charge more, but we were able to get that flushed for $584. If you look at it another way, it's just a tipping fee that,
Surcharge.
No points, if you will, on the driver's record on the one hand. No further detriment to the city on the other. The check I saw on the check registered and cut.
It's a civil infraction?
Yeah. On the Deeplands Drive project, we analyzed appeal issues and potential claims against the city raised by the neighborhood group in connection with the project. I don't really need to go into what all we did for tonight's presentation and hearing, but we reviewed the Planning Commission meeting minutes and resolution, conferred with the city regarding tree preservation plan issues, attended an earlier meeting with the client, with the city and several representatives of the city planner to discuss their recommendations. And we evaluated the plat approval requirements under city ordinances and state statutes, and I also conferred with counsel for Deep Lands Development Company from time to time in the course of those activities.
Okay, good report. Any questions? Okay, thanks, Brian. Mark?
First of all, as council knows, things that we're designated to do, where it's the village manager or city manager, often that is, and Brian is, we've been working with the city attorney on these issues, and the tree issues, those have been delegated. They're oftentimes, we have the ability to designate someone to do that. So for the resident to say some of those things are not in the file, his interpretation is different. We follow the opinion of the city attorney, not others. Second, I know, and I don't want to steal anybody's thunder about this, but I will say you see progress on the gatehouse. That was project that was bid out. It was originally designed by Stuckey Vitale Architects for us, who's assisting us with comments on the Parks and Rec Master Plan, which we'll get back to shortly. And as you know, it was bid out. The low bidder was APCOR. It was revised to bring it back into scale and project. Some changes were made. Negotiations were undertaken both between the architect and the low bidder to make sure. And as council knows, even though we very much appreciate the work of the Grosse Pointe Shores Improvement Foundation, we were able to secure a special grant anonymously from someone to pay for that, and we're still pretty much on target for that amount. I want to again thank, I know we mentioned this last time, but the work in the park and the work that Councilman Seeley has provided in terms of a contractor and things like that made a $60,000 project into a $20,000 project, give or take. We're expecting delivery, I know Brett wanted to be short, but we're expecting delivery of the stone material, which we gotta go pick up and deliver, and I think as soon as leaf season is over, we'll start seeing, we gotta store how many truckloads of material?
200 tons. I spoke to the contractor today.
Good, so we're gonna be moving forward on that to
Good.
protect the work done on the wall. And that work wouldn't have been done without his assistance
Yeah.
and a contractor to help us that. Besides the tree lighting Sunday at 6, the volunteer vendor and Christmas luncheon will take place on Tuesday, December 18th at 1 p.m. One of the concepts that was mentioned with respect to deep lands, and we received a nice letter from Alan Broad, a former member of the Planning Commission, bless you, was that we assigned potentially an ombudsman. That concept, because we're all busy, even though I'm a certified planner, I don't practice as a planner. I just maintain my certification. And like many projects, sometimes a big project like that, we may need some outside special expertise. So we're reviewing that concept, and actually, I think Brian and I have in mind somebody with particular expertise in this area that we may work with the Planning Commission and City Council. We'll bring you more information about that. But I want to mention Alan's, you all got a copy of his note. I think it was a good suggestion. As you know, SOC is now called the Helm, and I go off their board in December, so I don't have to take minutes as their former board chair or their secretary on the executive committee. One of the items the county is considering, and Bob Barrett, besides representing us with PATS, on the PATS board, I think you're chair now. I think you missed a meeting, you became chair, potentially, but he also attends as the advisory council for CDBG. Tim Colleen is going to come probably at the Christmas luncheon and spend 10 minutes talking about some changes at the county level. I've been dealing with their staff, and Bob and I have been talking about some of the changes that require us to submit probably a joint application with a couple of the other committees. Probably the farms, us, possibly, likely the park, Harper Woods and the Woods will all submit one joint application, so we'll continue to do it. But it's been brought to our attention that every time, for every contract issued by Wayne County, they charge they rip off the, well, I shouldn't say that. They charge an administrative cost that they get to keep. for just administering that contract. So we're gonna make it simple for them, et cetera. In front of you this evening was a handout. We participated both through the Michigan Municipal League and the Legal Defense Fund, some of the, I'm not thinking of the right word, where they file an amicus brief. We also participated in the lawsuit against the state on the enforcement of the Headley Amendment and the takeaway of revenue sharing funds. There's a handout that explains where that lawsuit is, and it's currently in the Court of Appeals, looking for a decision sometime early next year. That could result, like the schools were successful some years ago, in a substantial return of the money, because as you know, the state cut out the statutory revenue sharing, balanced their budget really on the backs of, and that is additional revenue that wasn't even counted, that was taken away from the city. One of the two things we'd ask, one of which, I hope I'm not stealing what you were going to say too, we want veterans to let us know that they're veterans here in the city. We'd like to keep track of that information so that we could have a special event perhaps next year on Veterans Day. In the same vein, we asked people, and I got a couple calls too about that power outage. There was someone that was on a special respirator for a member of their family. And for those that do not have specific generators, we'd like to know about any, public safety would like to know, we would like to know from Public Works, and we're going to invest in a few extra little portable generators that we can make available to our residents, the kind of service that people expect here, that we can do some extra things like that. So if you are a member of your family, you don't have a household generator, and there are serious issues like that, we'd like to know about that. Public safety can keep track of that, and we'll see if we can't provide help in those. Along with, we'll get Bob in contact with the right folks to do that. And I think that's, other than happy Thanksgiving, we'll see everybody next month. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we use that Smart 911 system? Do you guys ever look that up to see if you have a resident?
We rolled it out, and we got very little response from it. Currently, it's not in force in Grosse Pointe Shores. Grosse Pointe Farms has also had very little response from it, so.
So you're not using it, so if
We
you're.
do send out Nixle alerts, but.
No, this is Smart 911. You enter your profile in
Yes.
it.
We've got.
And then if they come to your house, if you guys come to the house, they got a dog, they know what
Yeah.
kind of drugs. I'm laying there on the floor, what I'm doing.
Diabetic or.
Right, exactly. And it goes to the thing of if you have someone with a medical condition that has a
Yeah.
ventilator or that, and they have a power outage, but you're not getting participation in that.
No, but that's a good point. We'll put the reminder in the monthly email newsletter that we send out to folks.
Because the data's out there if you want it, you know what I'm saying?
Fortunately
Yep.
for us, our medics know when they go through the door, basically the history of the patient. So we have
But there's always a first time.
No, that's a good suggestion.
Right.
some of them are reluctant to part with that information.
You're only as good as what you know. I'm just saying, the system's out there, and if you're a subscriber to it, you can have a lot of that info available.
Oh, that's a good idea. Good idea. Yeah, Mark, and to add to that, one of the residents on Lakeshore had to have his son pick him up and take him to his house, and he stayed there for a day and a half till power was restored. So, I mean, that's the kind of situation we're in at this point. Do we know our out-of-pocket expense for the sewage backup? It's over $100,000, or
Yes,
will that get assigned to the general fund or
no,
the water and sewer fund?
yes. Once we exceeded the deductible for it, that's like, I'll send you, we're within one or two of them, and I'll send a summary of it to
Okay.
everyone.
Okay, good. Thanks, Mark.
The
Any-
insurance covered $100,000, anything over that we.
Yep.
So the total is almost 200 and some thousand?
Oh, no,
Yeah.
it's more than that.
I'll send you the total.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Wow.
And
Like
we had a
four.
good discussion about this, and one of the things that came up, we eliminated paying for storage of somebody's 7 TVs, because it was a good comment that, hey, if we're paying for TVs, why don't we have them? You know, we could auction
get
them
'em?
off or something. No, we didn't pay, it was on his bill to store those TVs while the thing was clean. I said, darn.
Oh, gosh.
I was
Well,
hoping they were QLED or whatever the best ones were, but I'm not sure.
well, good report, Mark. Old business, none. New business. We got Public Act 152, which was passed in 2011. Bruce, you were the architect of that, you know, and we had the first voice of the Grosse Points in
Whatever.
December of 2011.
Yeah, if we want to make this fast and easy, we need a motion to approve the 80-20 plan that we've had for the last 5 years.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the next item is the draft bond reimbursement resolution.
Let me do that one. Okay, we're in the process of, we have a SAW grant we've gone through, and we're incurring costs to repair our sewer system, which we are going to eventually bond out and borrow money to pay for. Passing this resolution enables us to capture repair costs that we spend now, even though we haven't secured the funding till the future. This is a proactive step to do that. So do I have a support for a resolution for that? A motion.
Is there,
Second.
okay, any further discussion? If so, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The next item is marine well rates, which I think are reference to the September 2017 minutes from the Park and Harbor. And it calls for an increase of what, 3%?
3%, that's what the Harbor Committee voted, what, last year probably? 3% for 3 years going forward.
Correct.
Okay, so I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Penalty waiver resolution.
Forgot number D.
Oh, I missed one. BSNA software and services. Rhonda, do you want to say something, or do you want
Want me to do it?
Yeah, you can do it.
Let's just do it. Wrap it up.
Let Bruce, he's quick.
We currently use, in our financial accounting software, we run a program called Fund Balance. And with, system maintenance is done out of Ann Arbor with one person. The gold standard for financial accounting software for municipalities, as you'll see in your handout, is BSNA. They do it for probably 80% of the municipalities in Michigan. They're a Michigan-based company. We're asking tonight to go forward with installing BSNA as our financial accounting software and utility billing software. Because number one, it's easily recognizable. Number two, Matt, you had brought up the point earlier a couple meetings ago about transition planning and succession planning. This software can be run by anyone who has experience with it, and if you look and see how many jurisdictions use it, it's pretty easy to find somebody who can have it. So as a plan for down the road, or if Rhonda's out for some extended period, God, for some unforeseen reason, someone could step in there and use this software and run our business of our village. Now, the thing here is it's not in our budget for the current fiscal year. So what we would like to do is is to move forward and make our commitment for the total expenditure of about $48,000, which includes training, which may be a little bit less. No custom programming required, annual updates, so it's pretty vanilla. We don't have anything unique in our community. We can certainly address the water billing issue that was brought up earlier tonight about breaking out fixed costs and that kind of thing. We can give them so much detail, they're gonna cry, so we can do that with that. So what we'd like to do is make the commitment, and get authorization to make the commitment. I think we're talking about in the spring to do that. And then we have to give them a $17,000 deposit. The balance would be charged in next year's budget. And we would treat that as a prepaid in the current year, so it doesn't affect the budget numbers.
Is there an offset, Bruce, between what we would save on maintenance for our existing software? So we don't pay anything right now for our existing software?
Yeah,
We paid $3,000 or $4,000.
So that would be the offset, if we discontinue with them?
Well, we're gonna pay $3,000 or $4,000 with the new guys.
Oh, okay.
Nothing's free tag going
Okay.
forward.
Well, I thought that there was a maintenance charge that we would, if we cancel them, if it's cancelable maintenance and service agreement, then
Yeah,
we would save whatever.
Get that money back, but the best time to implement this, Rhonda and I has kicked this around, is really next fall. That's why we put the downstroke, approve it, hopefully in concept this evening, and set it up as a prepay, and then we'll put it in, and it comes out of the water and sewer budget, unfortunately.
Well, no, not
for
the
a
whole thing.
portion of it.
For a portion
Yeah.
does, but the 40-some thousand is out of the general fund.
Yeah.
But the reason we want to do it tonight is so that we can do facility planning and we can do staff training, because we may get the software installed, then Rhonda's got time to play with it and work with it.
Yeah.
If you saw in your package, all the communities that have this software, I mean, it's a pretty impressive list.
Yeah, there's most of them. Livonia does them, Bloomfield
All the
Township,
gross
Dearborn,
So it's
Macomb County does
it's the
them.
gold standard for doing that. And the key thing is that you have their support staff, but there's no custom programming.
Yeah.
Which is, you know how that is. You get a custom report and then you want it tweaked and then it's 200 hours and all that. It's all pretty, it's standard stuff. And the auditors like it too. We asked the auditors about it and they were all on board with it, so.
So I have a couple of questions before we move forward. Rhonda, how do you feel about doing this?
It's time. I'm not getting the support that I would really like from our current software vendor, or not as quickly. And there's just changes that should be made that aren't getting made. There's no new design to it. So the BSNA would definitely be the way to go. As Bruce mentioned, auditors love it. They've used it themselves in other communities.
Well, I mean, I just want to know you're happy with this, because I don't want to
She
like.
came to us with it.
Yeah, that's great. The next question I have, is, and I brought this up with Mark, I think it's worth exploring, and I know Bruce, you'd be involved with this with Finance Committee, but I think, especially now that we're getting this new software, we really need to consider billing monthly for our water instead of quarterly. I think the bills are getting really big, and then to have that huge bill show up when the property tax bill shows up in August is really, it's a lot to ask of the residents. And if you're not into doing a monthly billing, at least do by, and then maybe make it so that it staggers over August's property tax billing so that people get a break. I mean, it's a lot.
You know why you got 4 water bills a year? Because we used to have to walk around everybody's house in the village with a guy with a book. And he walked around, and that's how we did our water billing. And 6 years ago, we
He's
decided.
still living because he's in such good shape.
Yeah, and she had the dogs chased. So 6 years ago, there was this remote reading system, and some communities put that first version in. And you literally had to drive down the street. You know, you were like the guy looking for the phone signal. We didn't do that. We went to second generation, and we've been doing this, and we budgeted it for each year so many units. And I think by this spring,
We're looking.
Brett's from Dynas, they're going,
Yeah.
we're done. Every home will have a remote read that can be read at Village. Then you can do 2-month reading real easy.
Great.
That's why we haven't been done.
I think it really would.
And we agree with, that's a good idea, that's a good thing to do. Well, we gotta have the infrastructure to do it. So that's what we're.
And I don't, conceptually, it makes sense to me. I'm just concerned we're taking some hits. You know, we approved at the pension meeting $30,000 to the, our actuary. And the new normal now for actuarial work is gonna be probably double than what we experienced before. We went from 7,500 to 30,000 just like that. And I can just tell with the more detailed work that's gonna be required under the GASB that 25,000, 20,000 will be the norm, more than our accountant, our outside auditor. We're paying 19,000 to the auditor, we paid $30,000 to the actuary.
Well, if we were with the other auditor, it would have been 60 by now.
You know,
I can find you a guy who can
but
charge you more.
30,000 here, 30,000 there, pretty soon you're talking about real money, you know, I mean.
What's it got to
Just,
do with
yeah, no, it's 10 o'clock.
I'd like to propose that we take the money I saved on the seawall and put it towards the software for Rhonda.
Oh, that's so
Oh,
nice.
that's good.
That's a good
Is there a
idea.
second?
I second.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's done. What's the next one? Penalty waiver resolution.
Yeah, this is a suggestion, as you know, we use WCA as our assessor. There's a requirement that the state is required if we, if somebody, simply, Rhonda, and make sure I'm saying this right, if somebody doesn't file their homestead, we can double charge them. With,
Property transfer application.
yeah.
Up to $200 max.
It's not worth doing. This allows us to continue what we have been doing, which is not charging those people when they forget to file their homestead.
Yeah, most communities just don't charge, right?
Right, and there's very few instances where the form does not get filed, and then the assessor sends a letter out to someone, you know, who's
And they
affecting
get
the property, so, and the state it's one of the requirements of the state's audit of minimum assessing requirements, which that audit will be happening for Macomb County, I think, next year, and Wayne County the year after. So these are things that need to be in place before that AMR.
Does that apply to unrecorded quitclaim deeds? Like if someone doesn't record it, but it's a transfer of ownership with the quitclaim,
Right.
does it go back to the date that it was signed and notarized? Which
Yes.
means it would be a tardy,
Right.
okay, okay. Well, are there any questions? If not, I invite a motion then.
So move.
Is there support?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay,
Next one, actually, we do this every year, except by doing it this year, the state's finally changed so that the guidelines are based on the federal low-income standards, and if you pass a resolution this year, as the state changes it, or the feds change their poverty guidelines, we don't have to re-adopt this every year. So it's again recommended by WCA
Okay.
and the staff that we proceed.
so a person of one person household, assets cannot exceed 25,000, right?
That is correct.
Household assets, and then accompanied by federal and state tax returns, income cannot exceed $12,060. So, and that's including social security, and that's gifts and inheritances and everything.
Yep.
So it's income from all sources whatsoever. Okay, yeah, we haven't ever had one, have we?
One or two veterans and one. a
But
couple
veterans
of
are
requests.
exempt under a different
Yes,
statute.
different
That
statute.
doesn't apply to poverty.
No.
Okay. I need a motion to accept
moved.
this. Is there support?
Support.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Water bill detail, I think we've covered. I think that we're hearing from the residents. I know, Rhonda, you're in favor of, we're trying to figure out better detail.
Yeah.
Mark, you have this, we'll send this to the Rorities. This is,
Yes.
I forgot to give them their copy and pass that to Mark. So,
I got a copy too, but I'll send that to him.
so the next item is park security, because Bob Gazelle called me, said he couldn't be there. He said the security where he sees is inadequate is where the boats are. The marina side, not so much the parking lot side. He's not really in favor of, at this point, the parking lot side of the security. But the marina, he thinks that's where our liability is. And
Well,
our,
we can get some additional pricing on that. Yeah, we can take a look at that from Conti and see. There was some, you may recall, there was some comments from, and maybe John has heard them at the Harbor Committee or not, years ago about having cameras there that they didn't want. There's a toss-up issue with respect to, we don't have people come in because of, like on some of the canals in St. Clair Shore, they come down by boat and break into boats at some of the marinas, and some of the canals. But this is we'll get some additional information as to how that could be handled by what number. And just so, this also brings up the Wi-Fi issue. The Yacht Club is meeting tomorrow, and will get back to us with their consultant on our share if, however it's going to be, or we will have our own person put in Wi-Fi for next spring.
so are we still studying the park security, or is this
Yeah.
something, I mean, we're not,
No,
It's not a
gonna
go
ahead
yet.
With barcodes on the things and the cameras and the gates, we'll get some additional pricing to whether or not we put a TV screen or a computer screen probably in there. But I think those were what we had planned to include, assuming there's no objections by council, in, right away for next spring.
But I think what we talked about, it was gonna be evolving, so that we
Yeah,
would
there
start
will
like
be
a
some
phase
additional
one,
things.
phase two, and we got all these challenges facing the budget this year, and,
The phase one is staffing hours at the
Right.
guard shack. If we're talking $5,000, the security and the park pass, we all agreed that was part one. That's that. We'll
Well,
see how we get.
I'm not sure I agreed on that. I mean, does anybody else have any feelings about that?
Yeah, I think that we need it. I think, the park committee supports.
Tina, are you in
Putting
favor of?
cameras
in there. Of cameras?
Of cameras
No.
right now?
Not right now.
Matt, are you in
At the
favor?
entrance to the park.
No.
No?
I think what we did with the gatehouse was what we wanted to do, what we said we were gonna do, and that was going to be our security for this time. I think cameras, I was never a fan of them.
Well, some of the ladies on my street, without mentioning them, are not fan favorites of it because they just don't want to be on the camera. They want to be applying their makeup. One person was very adamant about that.
I think it's
Yeah,
a.
you could have
I
left the
think just
shack
like-
out and put 2 cameras up and saved you $60,000.
Right. Well, the thing is, though, we have cameras right now, and they run on a TV screen that no one watches. And it's not live, it's not real time. And so if something's happening in the park, it's not, it's not real time. So, yeah, okay, you can go in afterwards and look at stuff and that kind of thing, but if I'm being robbed or I'm being accosted in the park, it's not gonna help me with somebody going back tomorrow and watching it.
The guard shack is?
With respect to that,
Yeah,
that is,
not gonna let them in.
those cameras collect evidence, and they have been valuable to us on numerous occasions.
But in my car breakdown, break-in, it wouldn't have solved the crime. It was a stolen car.
I'll tell you too, that we have had one criminal complaint in my tenure here related to the park, and I don't recall any criminal reports from the marina. So, the marina would be an entirely different animal than what the cameras in the guard shack. You have 1,000 feet where you have to do more, where you have to get that feed out to the marina.
I know, well,
My concern, the reason I want cameras in the parking lot is liability. You're now gonna put a gate arm down, and you're gonna have pedestrians. And if somebody gets hit by a car, for whatever reason, through that gate, you want a video record of it. Okay? Because somebody either ran something, somebody had a medical emergency, and they ran through that, and you're gonna have a liability issue. And for $5,000, ongoing, you cover your ass liability-wise, and your insurance carrier's gonna like you for that. Is it a crime preventer? The answer is no, because number one, we don't have crime. Okay, if there's God forbid, if there's somebody getting raped in the parking lot, okay, and we're going to rely on it, and somebody in a guard shack looking at a video camera to prevent that or come to their aid, we're in sorry shape. That isn't gonna work. Okay, that we've got other resources to do that in terms of that. That's not the intent. The intent of the security, number one, it creates a video history, okay? It's not intrusive into your activities out in the park area itself or in the marina. I mean, if I'm sitting in the back of my boat having a drink, I don't want a video camera watching me. Absolutely. That's a private area, if you will. That's your private space. The parking lot is public domain. We have a responsibility to make sure it's safe. That's why I think the cameras are important there. Okay? And the barcode part of that is really, that's a separate and distinct issue, which is, it's security, it's usage, and it's control to know who's going into the park, and also to give us some idea what kind of activities we want to do. Ted, here's all these suggestions. I want these kind of tables. I want this kind of thing for kids. I want this. Well, it's the 90-10 rule. And it's even the 99-1 rule, where we have all these requests. We aren't going to accommodate 1% of the population and expect everybody to subsidize it. That's why I think the cameras, for what it costs, it's a no-brainer to start with.
so the cameras are 5,000. One of our residents offered to pay for the cameras. Is he still willing to pay the 5,000?
Well, we could,
Certainly ask them.
How much are the barcodes then?
I believe he was under the impression that we were talking a few $100 for the cameras. We didn't realize there was infrastructure, high definition cameras, you know.
'Cause I know at Costco right now, I'm considering it, but I just looked at it, it's like $500 for 5 cameras plus the monitor.
For
So,
outside your home.
yeah, but
One of the things we've already put in place, the process and the system with Conti Electric, that is, that is like.
State of the art.
I don't want to say NASA equivalent, but it's certainly,
It's high resolution.
Homeland Security type equivalent. So we will have, and it's been helpful to us, and
Well, we've had
one
breaks in
instance-
that, remember the one
Yeah.
incident
One
that,
instance
Remember,
where
there's
they
that
went
camera
down.
at the north end. Had it not been for that camera, when that guy came out of that house and that contractor, that thief, we wouldn't have had the break in the case where we got that trailer full of tools. That camera paid for itself. That whole system paid for itself that one night alone.
Yeah, and
The other
when the one went down, you know what problem that caused. Had video from another source, but it wasn't as sufficient.
well, it was a neighbor, yeah, I remember that, because we still are not in her good graces, so.
I do think for this price, we should do this.
This is a
We can
one-time
think
price?
Again,
There's no
Yeah, and
constant
it's-
monitoring
But again,
pricing.
we're not here to vote on that, we're talking about it because.
Right.
Well,
the
I
park
thought this
committee's
was
gonna
not-
come- The park committee's gonna come with a formal recommendation to us. I can tell you from the finance side, Doug's talked to me about what the budget is for this. We've got the money to do this. If we're willing to spend $30,000 for a park attendant for 3 months out of the year, okay?
Well, see, but I've
You
worked on
said
the
if we're
numbers,
willing to
I've
spend
worked on the numbers,
$120,000
and I don't
a year.
have those numbers.
It's $100,000 for somebody to put over. It's 30 grand, the chief ran the numbers, for somebody for 3 months. We're willing to spend $30,000 for a person sitting in a thing to push a button.
Yeah, but I have to say that,
We're not willing to spend $5,000 for cameras to spend scope.
no,
Nickel and dime.
I have to say that my understanding of what we were doing across the street is right now we have 2 attendants on duty during the season. One checks passes and one helps unload cars and sells ice. And the concept was to just move the guy who checks passes across the parking lot. I mean, we don't need a 3rd employee, we never have. So if you guys wanna like put in cameras, I'll support that for the additional security. But I think it's redundant to hire a 3rd person.
We've already, that was the plan.
I understand it was the plan, but
We've
we never voted
for
on
We
it.
don't vote on
Three.
that. That's not
We don't
our,
want we don't need 3 people in the
that's
park.
not our
Just look-
jurisdiction to talk about. That's the chief and go
Well, we
back.
should have some kind of authority as far as
How is it
hiring
not our
and how much
jurisdiction?
money is
He's the
being
security
spent
plan.
there.
He makes a recommendation to us and he's staffing at that place.
Right.
As a point of clarification, let me just clarify that last year we had one park ranger on duty with the exception of Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays. And we had a second ranger from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. to help with picnics. There's never been a discussion about a 3rd employee. We are going to need, on the day shift and probably most of the afternoon shift, we're going to need one inside and one outside. But there's never been a discussion about a 3rd employee. But we do need someone on the inside because they help with picnics, they sell ice,
I agree.
and they're the first call from something happening in the pool, so,
Right.
just to clarify, that's.
Yeah, but if you've got the guard shack van, are you gonna check passes for pedestrians and kids coming in at that point? Or are you gonna let them go up to the other?
They all have to go to the guard shack, just like they do at the park. Same thing.
Have you written a procedure that way?
Well, as far as the pedestrians walking, parking across the street, they could have their pass checked on the inside, we're gonna have 2 stations in comparison, one outside.
You're gonna have a ranger or both.
Because the pedestrian's not gonna file a pass to the guard. Correct. That's not the way the sidewalk laid out.
No, it was my impression and understanding, the way that the hut or the guard shack is being configured, and the reason it is not further into the parking lot is because it would have blocked the pedestrian,
Right.
Correct,
right?
The pedestrian pass that shows.
Well, then that was my understanding, that they were going to have to stop like at the farms and show their pass.
Well, the thing is the one thing about what the chief's talking about is because he's got a wireless reader, if the arm is down and the guy's outside, the attendant is outside the guard shack anyway, and the court can pull up on lights, and they just stop and look at the walk over and spend the passes. I mean, there's no car that's gonna hit them, because the arm is down. Yeah, I mean, it's totally manageable.
Not gonna anybody else.
No, there will be someone at the other
So the
We
other,
arranged with the other.
That's where the additional cost is, because now I have two locations that I have to man on days and afternoons.
so
Let's go back. We're gonna add a person. The guard check.
we're adding hours, we're not adding a person. We're adding hours.
$30,000 an hour.
The individual on the inside gatehouse can probably, handle the picnic, take the person for a picnic.
Sure.
Because the majority of people are gonna be screened at the outside gate.
So we're just adding hours, and the thing
You
is,
wanna add a third employee?
No.
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 Your proposal that you
Right.
showed to us, and it included a third person for 3 months out of it. That was the first one, at a cost of $30,000. What we budgeted.
Well, we just found 30 grand for it.
Well, there may have been a couple different proposals. We can certainly look at the management of the ambulance park.
Well, okay, my point was, I don't remember voting. I mean, we talked about, like we said, it's evolving. It's evolving. We may end up there.
My concern is with the idea of the staff. So every single employee is
But it's additional hours.
But at minimum wage, that's 2,000 hours. 3,000 hours. So we need another person to spend 3,000 hours at the park.
we need a
So
recommendation.
that's where the 30,000 is coming from. That Bruce is talking about.
That's what, 5 grand in cameras?
2,000 hours is an entire year. I mean, at 40 hours a week, there's 50 weeks. So I don't think it's that many hours.
Well, I'm not
At
sure I
$10
wanna
an hour.
establish precedents. I know the woods and the farms, I don't believe have cameras in the parking lot. Do they, chief?
Well, I don't know that, but I can tell you that the.
I asked someone, I asked-
Employees inside the park that we don't have.
Yeah.
Hey, Chief, the one thing I would like to ask is, I know of 4 separate complaints that, I know I had talked to you about it, about the one attendant or ranger or whatever you want to call him. The guy was on his cell phone every time I saw him. He's very unfriendly to people and not helpful at all. And there was a lady who was a gate house person or ranger, and she was amazing. I mean, she was very, very helpful. So, I mean, I don't want to be totally critical of the rangers, but there were a couple that I don't think cut the mustard. And now that we're going to have one person who's basically working in a capacity of customer service, unloading cars, helping people, we need somebody that's like alert and wants to be there.
And we have terminated some of the employees as
Good.
well, and we try and, they don't,
And able-bodied to be able to help unload. And
right. Those people sometimes are hard to find, the
Right.
best we can, and we have let some go, so.
okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, chief. Again, Mark, I'm just making the point that we haven't really, I mean, there's some of my neighbors, I don't want to mention names.
Well, I think that was my point about if you put cameras on their boats and things, that was.
Yeah, people are changing bathing
The
suits
thought
and.
was,
Might
no,
not be
we
a good
would
thing.
just do, the parking.
Well, like the
area.
people fishing on the pier, if you had a camera on the pier, which
Those are all things to.
which
we
would
can
not be
consider
intrusive.
Further, but as you said, with respect to the actual security plan and what we put in terms of additional gate arms or things like that, that's gonna be worked out,
And
as
it'll
trial
be
and error.
presented before council
Yeah.
for approval.
Yeah, we'll bring
Okay.
more information.
'Cause
First, go through the committee that council has established, and whether you combine them or keep them separate, we'll continue to work with both of them. But at
Okay.
this point, we were gonna include the camera circumstance, because I think the camera's only at the guard shack, and we'll check as to what additional equipment we may need to put in that's being stored over here, because I do think we do have, and we've run this in general terms by our insurance carrier, and they were on board with the concept, so.
Okay, well, like I said, in general, I don't want to establish a precedent. We would be the first Grosse Pointe that I know of to have cameras in the parking
We're
lot.
the first Grosse Pointe put security cameras in the community.
No, but we're not the first to have a gatehouse, at the entranceway, so I think
We're the
that,
first ones to put cameras on our entrances.
Yeah.
We're the first guys that did that,
well,
and no one else has done it since.
Well, the farms and.
Farms
the city
has
are
it, right?
both considering trying to do the same thing through WOW. That's why the farms would like to get WOW in, because of the pricing structure differential. And the Grosse Pointe City has had a significant problem with their parking structures and the computer system that operates. You gotta press money to put money in to get out of behind the neighborhood club and stuff
Okay.
as well, so.
Well, I just want to make sure we're on all board about that. Yeah, and so like,
Yeah.
Great.
No, we're
yeah,
good.
Good. Okay, thanks. Public comment? We have anybody left? Chuck? Public comment? Council comments, Bob?
I'm all set, thanks. Have a good
Yeah.
turkey day.
Okay.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
I had just one thing. I think we all got this letter from one of the residents, but talking about voting, and, you know, he asked that we put the ballot maybe on the website, and I think I talked to
It
Tom.
was.
And Tom's
Didn't know how
gonna
to
do
look
that.
at. I mean, Tom put it on, and of course, we had that system crash, not the voting system, but the ability to look at the council meeting and stuff crash, but that's been fixed too, so.
Yeah, yeah. And then just the thing about, you know, you don't need to have an ID to vote, but, you know, just to make that
Spend
clear.
Significant time with the individual involved, explain to him, he doesn't have to. He
Well,
was
it needs to be
concerned
explained
that-
to everybody, though, the whole
Yeah.
community, Mark, not
No,
just
it's a
him.
good thing, and
Yeah.
we'll put a reminder in for the next voting system about that as to exactly what anybody has to show, and we're not copying, we're not storing it in a database and things like that.
Good, that's
Okay.
all.
Thanks, Doug. 2 points. The chess tournament, our defending Grandmaster Jonathan Alerty won. He had a very, very spirited match, though. He was challenged. We talked about Nina Darling. She met the love of her life in 1955. They got married. They lived in the community continuously. I mean, what a great story. And Veterans Day, Mark, I'm glad you mentioned something. It's going to be added to the calendar. We're going to ask the veterans who have served to come forward through the monthly newsletter. We're going to have an hour service, maybe something short here on Veterans Day. And I think it's something we should congratulate the people that have, and honor the people who've served our great country. Our next meeting is a noon meeting, 12 noon. We once had somebody show up at 7 for the noon meeting. And the meeting wasn't a 7-hour meeting, so there was no one here. But it's December 18th, and so, Tom, I hope we can make it. We have great food. Chuck, I hope you can make it. Everyone here is invited. So with that, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So
Thank all those